but I just want to complete front end at least with you guys this time. Umesh bhai, kya karoon? Okay, chalo, we'll just begin with this thing. So we'll begin with, sure, Ajay, we'll begin with functional scope. Okay, I'm just going to turn off my video for a while, lower bandwidth. I have to sit at home today. Okay, cool. Now let's begin. So in the last class, we've talked about a lot of concepts actually. Close this, concept 3. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, great. Now let's begin. Okay, so the discussion that we have is first about array methods, which have been covered already, right? And let's just move from there. Then we started with the concept of closures, right? So guys, in closures, very quickly, the most important bit of closures was having a functional scope, right? Or a block scope. So we learned that there are two types of scopes in JS. One is a functional scope, right? The other is a lexical scope or a block scope, right? So what happens when you have a lexical scope? Lexical scope simply means that you are, whatever you write, whatever happens between these two brackets is called lexical scope or block scope, right? Because whatever is between these two brackets is called a block of code, right? While functional scope is entirely different. What functional scope means? It means the scope exists inside the function, okay? So now since Ajay has asked this question, let me just explain it to you guys. Okay, so what I'm writing here, guys, if you look at it very carefully, let's say I have function, my name, and all this guy does is if let's say name.length greater than 5, it says have long name. Okay, so we've created a function and it checks if the name passed to it. If it has a length greater than 5, then it says you have long name, right? So now why am I doing this? I'm doing this just to explain you a very simple fact, right? Inside this, if what I'll do is I'll create a var name length is equal to, let's say, name.length, okay, which will just store the length of the name, right? Just like arrays have the length property, name also has, the strings also have length property. We can check that very quickly. So let's say if I write a string here, ABC, and I say dot length, it says 3, which is the length of the string. Let me zoom that in. ABC dot length is 3. Okay. Similarly, this guy also gives you the name length. So now, if I write comma name length, let's see what this guy does. I'll just copy it from here, paste it here, and let's say my name, and I'll just actually pass in my long name. Okay, so it says you have long name and the length is 9, right? Now, I just want someone to answer this. What happens when I say console.log name length? What happens, guys? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? Okay, Shivam, tell me what happens. Okay, right. But now what you guys should have noticed is that this variable was declared in this scope, right? This lexical scope from line 609 to 6112, right? But still it will be accessible outside the scope, right? So let's try this out. In fact, do this again, paste it, and 2 9s were printed. Why? Because name.length here and name.length of this guy, 2 9s were printed, right? And why is that happening? Why is this still accessible outside these curly brackets? Because of var. And what kind of scope var has, Chinmay? What is the scope of var? No. अरे कुछ भी. Global क्या होता है myth? No, it's not local or global, guys. That's a different classification. Not hoisting, nothing. It is just functionally scoped. If Rabia, if it was lexically scoped, तो वो इसके बाहर नहीं आता, right? Let's say I have let name length, let twice of name length. I'm creating another variable, okay? Is equal to name length gth star 2. Okay. Now, as long as you write it here, it's fine. But let's say we try to write it here. Let's see what happens. I call my name. My name. And you have an error. Okay, so my debugger was on because I was working on something else, but don't worry. I'll show that to you again. See, it says twice of name length is not defined, but inside the bracket, it worked just as well, right? So here it's completely fine, but the moment you try to access it outside of the scope, you get an error. Why do you get an error? Ajay, since you asked the question, let is lexical or block scoped. So now is lexical and block clear? Everyone say yes if it is. Say yes, not CLR. Yes. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. This is nice. So I think everyone is good with it. Okay. So what are we going to cover today? Let me quickly open your syllabus and check. Okay. Answer if we may differentiate between lexical block, global, local scope. Amit, lexical and functional is clear, right? Lexical and block are the same. So why are you saying lexical / block? Global or local mein, what have I told you before? When we discuss closures, right? Anything which lies outside of this function, anything which is outside of this function is the global scope for this function and will be accessible inside the function. Anything which is inside this function will be locally scoped for this function and will not be accessible outside this function. Global and local, very, very simply. Okay. Great, guys. Then we talked about this. We also talked about closures, right? And we eventually ended on the note that closures are nothing, but it's basically the arrangement of a function inside the function where the inner function, like this one, has access or remembers its environmental variables, right? So this name is in the environment of this function, so it remembers it even when it's taken out, right? When I say taken out, it just means call it and then call it further. So we took a few examples here, add one to number, created them, called them, whatever, right? Okay, we are talking about math. Okay, so the math library has a lot of functions, a lot of utility functions, which can be used for performing mathematical calculations, for rounding off, for getting mathematical constants, and many, many things, right? So like every other object, math has a set of attributes and a set of attributes or properties, and it has behaviors. Behaviors are nothing but functions, right? So essentially, we talked about these 10 methods, right? Since they are object functions, they are called methods also. Okay, so one by one, we talked about round, which rounds off. We talked about seal, which gives the ceiling, floor, trunk, sign for getting -1 and +1, depending on whether the number was negative or positive. math.pow, which was for raising power. And we realized that it is exactly similar to the star operator. SQRT for computing the square root, ABS for getting the absolute value, min and max. The important fact here is they take any number of arguments and return the minimum argument. Okay, then random is used to give a random number between the two specified, between 0 and 1. Okay, math.random works like this. So we use this knowledge and we were able to create a function which was called get random between A and B. And what this guy was doing is it was finding random numbers between A and B. Right? Everyone remembers this one? Everyone understood this one? Important question from the point of DSA. Okay, wonderful. Right, important algorithm. Good to know. Okay. Then we talked about, I mean, this was just an explanation of how that guy works, right? Then we just started on date, but could not make a lot of progress because we were out of time. So we'll talk about dates, okay, today in somewhat more detail, right? Right? Do you guys remember what we had talked about dates earlier? Right? Okay. So the first thing we have discussed is called the timestamp, or let's call it epoch timestamp. Right? So what is epoch timestamp? Epoch timestamp represents the milliseconds elapsed since 1900. My bad, 1990. Right? Or is it 1970? Okay, let's try that out. It's very simple. What we're going to say is we'll say new date and we'll say 0 and will tell us the year. Okay, so it's 1970, not 1990. Cool. So the number of milliseconds elapsed since 1970 is what the epoch timestamps give you, right? How do you get this value? It's very, very simple. You can simply say date.now and it will return you that timestamp. Okay. Okay. So how to get it? You simply say date.now. Right. Moving on. Then we talked about the date object, right? Wherein we spoke about how you can, create a new date object. So we use the new keyword for it. How that works, I'll tell you later, I promise. So most likely today, if you're able to complete date. Okay. So when we say new date, it returns us this whole thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll just store it to a new variable, which is called t is equal to new date. Okay, guys. Now, this is called the date constructor. Okay. So whenever you specify date with anything, right? Whenever you're specifying date with anything, when I say anything, it means with the new keyword, it is called a constructor. Okay. So this construct, wherein you say new, and basically, let's say you're calling a function, right? So what does it look like? This is a function call. Does everyone understand it? Does everyone understand that this is a function call? Right? So what is happening here, if you look at it, it's saying new and a function call, right? In JavaScript, such kind of arrangement is called a constructor function, right? So basically, date is a constructor function. Clear, everyone? Okay. So, but the constructor function does not do anything special. It just returns an object, right? Like any, repeat once, please. Okay, I didn't say much. I just said that. Do we understand that this is a function call? Is this how we call functions, right? When you're placing new in front of a function call, right? It's called a constructor function. That's how you invoke a constructor function. So date in this case is called a constructor, right? Or date is a constructor function, right? Just remember the name constructor function, what it means, where it comes from. No, I have not defined. This is the first time I'm using this word. Of course it will. You can store it to whatever thing, right? At the end of the day, it returns an object. Objects will be stored in a variable memory, right? So I can say const today's date. Today's date is new date, right? So today's date has the property. RV, I told you na, Papa. I will be explaining it later. अभी के लिए नाम बता रहा हूँ. Constructor function is a whole topic in itself. I will be covering it, but why am I mentioning the name today and I did not yesterday? Because now we're very close to starting constructor functions. I would like to start it today itself, if time permits, right? Okay, anyway, moving forward. So what is today's date? It is basically an object, right, which was created by calling new date, right? And today's date gives us this value. So now what we need to understand is this new date, right? There are multiple ways of calling this. So you can call new date with 7 arguments also. And what are these arguments? Basically, it asks you to give it the year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, right? So you can either call it blank, and this gives current date. You can call it with parameters, time parameters, time/calendar parameters. Okay, and it will basically give you that date object for that particular date, right? So how it works is, let's say I wanted to see what is going to be. So let's say I wanted to get the date for 2020 February, right? So what I'm going to write, guys, I'll say 2020. Then I'm going to say Feb, right? How do I say Feb? I can say 01. Nice. Okay. Then let's say I'm talking about 20th Feb. Okay. When I press enter, it's going to give me, it was a Thursday. Now I know that. It's Feb 20, 2020. And of course, it will give me the 000 time, right? Did you guys understand? And of course, you can specify it to more accuracy also. You can say hours. Let's say I want to talk about 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m., right? 9:30 p.m. and 30 seconds, right? You can just go, you can just keep going deeper and deeper into it, right? Thing to remember is this one is 0 indexed month, right? What is 0 indexed month? It means Jan is 00 and not 01. Cool. I'll just write it here. So I'll say this was 20 Feb 2020. You should Google it, RB. You should Google that. Yes. Okay. So how does January work? January works like this. How will December work? It will work like this. Is everyone clear? Guys, are you clear? Okay. Now, once you have created that particular date, right? And let's say I've stored it in T, it gives you access to all sorts of date methods, right? Like we've seen, guys, there are array methods, there are string methods. Similarly, there are date methods also, right? And how do you get access to methods? You say the name of the object, which is t dot, and see, it's giving me so many methods, right? We'll just talk about these in a second, right? But the point is, it can give us many things. So let's say I call toDate string. What is it going to give me? It's going to give me a proper date, like Sunday, dec 20, right? If I say ISO, right? If you remember, we had talked about ISO string date. We'll just talk about that now, right? So what is ISO date? It's a particular date format in which you write the date like this, right? It's a string, of course. You write the year. So let's say 2021, 2, right? You write the month, right? This time it's not going to be zero index. This is going to be normal. Okay, so January would be 01, right? Then you write the date. Let's say it's 26, right? And then you specify t, and then you talk about the time. So let's say I say 13:15:00. So this is the ISO date. It's very easy to read, right? And the new date function gives us capability. So either you can pass it like this, which will give you current date. You can pass it like this to get any particular date, or you can give the easier version of it, which is called the ISO date, right? Like this one. So let's try that out also. So I'm going to say new date, and I'll say 2022. Again, Jan, right? Not colon T. Okay, and then you can say 16:00. So it's giving you Wednesday, 26 Jan 2022. Okay, about the 5:30 hour, basically, like I told you before, it operates on Greenwich Mean Time, right? Everything typically in the world of computer science operates on Greenwich Mean Time. But when you specify it like this, it's actually giving you the local time, right? Which is the Indian Standard Time. And Indian Standard Time is Greenwich time plus 5:30, 5 hours and 30 minutes, right? So Greenwich Mean Time plus 5:30 is where India lies at. Greenwich time minus something is where US lies at, and that's how it works, right? If we give more than 11 in month field, then it's an invalid date. You will get an error. No, I just explained it, Uday. I think you did not listen. What I told is, when you are specifying an ISO string, ISO date like this, that time date will not be, month will not be zero indexed. Month has only zero index when you are calling it like a function in this one. Remember this, guys. Important thing. Write it here. And on the other one, clear, guys? Zero index thing. अरे तरुण भाई, अभी तो बोला, बार बार सेम चीज क्यों पूछ रहे हो यार? इस केस में मंथ जीरो इंडेक्स होता है, इस केस में मंथ जीरो इंडेक्स नहीं होता है. So in this case, 01 will mean Jan, 112 will mean December. Okay, sir, ISO string mein, what is 000Z? It is the milliseconds. Hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds. It's not like that. It's implemented in such a manner, Ajit, that when you are giving it in function, it will take indexed. It will start from 00. But when you're giving an ISO string, since ISO string is a more acceptable format, right? It's a more common format. So they did not touch that. They specially take care of making it as it should be. So ISO string, guys, is considered human readable format. Okay, cool. I hope it's clear now. Can we convert to 12-hour format? You can convert it into anything. We'll just talk about those in a second. Okay, are we clear till here though, everyone? Okay, great. Now the last one is new date, milliseconds. Okay, now that you know what epoch is. Okay. So now let's say you had date.now, gives you epoch time. So I just take this epoch time, right? And let's say if I pass this new date constructor, it gives me the current time, right? So basically this is the fourth way of creating the date object, right? And of course it works on plain mathematics. Let's say if you add 1 hour to it, so 1 hour is 3600 seconds, or 3600 plus 30 milliseconds, right? So it's showing, earlier it was showing you 934, now it's showing you 1034, right? So it's plain mathematics, right? If you add another 0 to it, it will add 10 hours, right? Which will be January the 4th, 7 o'clock in the morning. Does everyone understand this? Simple mathematics, right? It keeps it just we have to memorize. Of course not. You can't memorize it. It changes every second, right? Repeat once. Okay. Can anyone explain this apart from me? Does anyone want to try? Shivam? Okay. Shivam, you go ahead, Shivam. Just explain it to everyone. Go ahead, Shivam. Shivam, I can't hear you. I think Shivam is having some mic problem. Amit? Amit, do you want to try? Sure, Amit, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Amit.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
In this new date this thing function, what we are doing is, सबसे पहले हम लोग very first we'll try and get the epoch value of the date.
Yes.
तो वो epoch value of the date करने के लिए हम लोग जो date dot now करेंगे, तो we'll get we may write sir date dot now.
Yes, and we'll get the current. We'll get the current epoch value. Epoch
Yes.
value can be anything, right? So
Right,
we'll get
sir.
the current value. Okay.
So and that inside this parenthesis, we will write the epoch value of the current I mean date dot new. So that will give us that date and time. Or अगर हम लोगों को इसको कुछ if we want to change something, so we
Yes.
can either add or subtract those many
Milliseconds.
numbers from the epoch value to get the desired date.
Okay, those many milliseconds.
Yes, sorry sir, milliseconds.
Okay, so date dot now gives you milliseconds. In this, inside here, you just need to write the number of milliseconds, right, elapsed since 1970, right? Because see, the point, guys, is very simple. When you do new date 0, it gives you this time, Thursday, Jan 01, 1970, correct? Now, let's say so this is just a definition, right? New date of 0, or when was epoch time 0? Epoch time was 0 on this date, this time, right? So right now, if you look at it, the date that we are sitting on today, there are some number of milliseconds which have elapsed, right? Actually, there are a lot of milliseconds which have elapsed. So when you do date dot now, it just gives you the number of milliseconds which have elapsed since the start of this time, right? Because 0 is this, and this thing is the current time. So if you place it here, no, not here, new date, it gives you the current time, right? Now, all I have said literally is, if you want to play around with this number, we are doing some simple mathematics, right? So let's say we wanted to find out the date, which was 1 hour before. So what we need to do is, because I told you these are milliseconds, we can simply subtract these many milliseconds. So this is the number of seconds in an hour, and the number of milliseconds in an hour will be this multiplied by 1000, which is 2 and 3 zeros, right? So that gives you 834. Similarly, if you want to go 1 hour in future, you add this. Kishore, are you clear? Kishore, are you clear? Good. Is everyone clear, guys? Simple mathematics. The only calculation is number of milliseconds elapsed since 1970. Howsoever you want to play with those milliseconds is up to you. Right? Why you take 36? Arey Baba, those are the number of seconds in an hour. I can't change that, Kishore. I'm sorry. The number of hours in a second will be 36. 3600 seconds in an hour, right? Because by convention, epoch time was 0 on 1970. January the 1st. The beginning of time was this. This is by convention, guys. This is like asking, hey, why does alphabet start from A? I don't have an answer for that. It's a convention. Right? Alphabet start from A. Similarly, epoch starts from 0. And that 0 was considered as January the 1st, 1970. That's all you need to know. Let's not complicate this, guys. Shall I move forward? Okay, good. Just that you need to know this concept. Now I think everyone knows this. Great. Okay. Cool. I'm just thinking what to talk about next in date only. Okay. Just thinking, guys, how to talk about this thing, what to tell you more about this thing, right? Okay. So now that we know about date, right? Now we can do a lot of things with this date, right? So a typical use case whenever you are doing, especially front-end engineering, is a simple fact that you need to display dates in a variety of ways, right? When I say a variety of ways, what I mean is, see, if you must have seen on some websites show dates like this, right? But there could be another website which shows date like this, right? There could be yet another website which shows date like this, or this, or I mean, any number of combinations, right? So Wednesday, December 2021, something like that, right? December, it was a Wednesday 2021, right? The point I'm trying to make is very simple, that dates can come in all sorts of formats, right? All sorts of formats, right? And now that you know this, you should be capable of handling any type of date, right? So how do we do this? Guys, we just need to know a particular date, right? And now we know the technology for knowing that date, right? What we can do is simply, okay, let's do this. Let's go to 12 December and let's try to see what happened that day, right? So how can I do that? Ajit, can you tell me how can I go to 12th December 2020. Go ahead. Okay, shall I unmute you, Ajit? Sure. Give me a second. Go ahead, Ajit. Tell us.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Perfectly, Ajit. Go ahead.
Yes, as you taught that first of all we have to take epoch time, epoch value, right?
एक second, sorry, buddy, I'm cutting you off. आपको epoch time नहीं पता होगा ना 12th December 2020 का?
No, but we can change by the by the adding some values in
इतना
milliseconds.
complicate क्यों कर रहे हो अजीत? Simple भी तो कर सकते हो ना? Can you not just say a new date and just specify the ISO string of that date?
Yeah, we can do by this also. Yes.
I mean, that would be very much easier, right?
Yeah.
Can you not just do this? 2020. आगे बताओ.
Strings, yeah. 2020 and after we have to put a Jan. So yes, 12 December 01.
Okay. Let's say. So what did this give you? December 01, 2020, right?
Right.
But if you had gone by the epoch route, तो बहुत complex हो जाता है ना. आप क्यों calculate करोगे इतना? First, you will have to get आज का date epoch, right? By date.now.
Right.
Then you will have to calculate कितने number of days को subtract.
Milliseconds, it will go very far. Yeah.
Correct. So I mean, it basically becomes very complicated. So this is the first way to do it, Ajit. The second way, what is the second way that we learned? It was this one. How do I use this one?
Yeah, by indexing, right? We can create a new date. We have to write the year.
Perfect. What is that?
2020.
Perfect.
Comma. We have to write January, right? So we have to write
December. अरे हर बार बदल रहे हो.
Okay, December. So we have to write 11.
Perfect. And
the date,
which was
01.
And that's it. Done.
Done.
Right? Cool. Awesome, Ajit. Now, guys, once you have done this, things start to become easier, right?
Right.
I'll tell you how they become easier, right? They will become easier because now you will be able to extract things out of it, right? Let me just explain that. Okay. What I'm trying to tell you is once you do this, the date, I'll just store it in T, right? Just for making my life easier. Now you can see T dot get day. What that gives you? It gives you 2 because 2 was the day that day. So 2 was Tuesday, right?
Oh, number of the second day of the week.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sunday is 0, Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2.
Cool.
Right. And of course, I mean, then there are lots of methods that you get access to. Right. That's it, Ajit. You can mute yourself and just continue now.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to tell you guys is once you have this, once you've done this, right? So how do we go about getting those particular formats, right? So guys, what we are trying to achieve here is we are trying to write dates in all sorts of ways. Correct? So earlier, we've seen that different websites can have different types of what to say, different types of formats in which they can display dates, right? The JavaScript internally, it gives you mechanisms to convert those dates, right? So typically what some people do is, let's say, now I know this thing, right? 2, right? And similarly, I can do t.get month also. What that gives me? It gives me 11. Everyone understood this? It gives me 11. Why? Because it's the 11th month, right? Now let's say we had with us an array of days. It's an array of strings. So first one is, let's say, Sunday. One is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, almost done, Friday, and last week, Saturday. Okay, guys. So now this array is also 0 index, right? And in my T, I know this was this date. So let's say I wanted to write in a fancy format. I wanted to say 01. I want to say 1st December. Okay, like this, and Tuesday. Like this, I wanted to write my date. Right? Like a fancy format. Typical use case, very practical use case, so to say, right? Now that I have created this array, what I can do is I can say t, which was my original date, dot get day. What that will give me, guys, it will give me 2, right? And I can simply say days t dot get day. What did I get, guys? Guys, Tuesday, right? Similarly, just imagine you had a similar array for months also. Okay, I won't write that because it's going to be very long. Okay, so similarly, let's say you had an array which was for months, January and all the way to December, right? Now, when you would have done months dot t dot get month, right? So then it will reference that particular date, December, right? Did everyone understand what I'm saying? And guys, once you have those things in place, so what I'll do is I'll say my day. I'll save this in a variable. So that day is equal to days dot days like this. So we know day has Tuesday. Similarly, we would have done let month is equal to months of t dot get months. But since we don't have that array right now, I'll just say December. Right now, you can very simply construct any type of date format, right? How do you do that? So we'll see. What we need is the date first. Okay, the numerical date. So what was the numerical date that I can easily get? So I will say let date, creating a new variable, t dot get date. Okay, so what is date? Date is 1, right? So how do I construct my, let me bring this closer. How do I construct this? I will start with day plus empty string space, date plus empty string, right? Plus month, right? Plus comma, space, comma and space, right? Day, which was Tuesday, plus of course between them. And finally, day, date, t dot get here. 20, right? So Tuesday is fine. Let me just show it to you like this first, and then I'll explain what happened here. Right? Space and of course plus and t dot get year or get full year. Did you guys understand? So now I have these building components, guys. I have these basic components. I have these basic components with me. I know the date, I know the month, I know the year, I know all of these things, right? And using them, I just have to compile a string. Did everyone understand this? Date formatting at its easiest. Right? A very, very common use case. So now guys, once you have this in place, you can construct any date format, right? So we talked about so many date formats, Abhi, right? Just a few minutes back. So let's say now I want to write something like this format, right? The most popular one, 12. No, how do you write it? 01/12/2021 or 2020, right? How can I write this? Very, very simple, right? So I'll say date, which is a number, plus slash plus t dot get month. But I know this guy gives me 11, so I'll just add 1 to it, right? Plus slash, right? Plus slash plus t dot get year, get full year. Let me just explain you what is going on here. So if you look at this, guys, here it's becoming 111, right? Can anyone tell me why this is happening? Why this problem is happening? There is nothing as char in JavaScript. Priyanka, please forget your C++. Yes, no. What is yes? नहीं पता यार, कोई तो सही बोलो. Implicit yes. RV, very nice RV. मजा आ गया RV. What had we learned, guys? Whenever you are trying to add a string and a number, what happens? Type coercion happens, right? Which means the number is upgraded to string, right? How we can prevent that? If I put this in brackets, right? Now what will happen is t.get month and plus this will first get computed before getting added to anything, right? Bracket is just giving priority, just like in mathematics, right? So now everything is perfect. Got it? Right? And there are many methods, guys. If you go on exploring that, you can just say get and it will show you many. There are many methods, right? So there is get hours also. I mean, you can build it as complex as whatever you want to. Did everyone understand this? Is everyone absolutely clear with this concept? Very important, because date conversion. अरे अंकित भाई अभी बोला ना. अभी तो I have just been talking about use cases. What are you asking, man? To format dates in 100 number of ways, that is the use case. To style dates in 100 number of ways, that is the use case. Okay. Did everyone understand string concatenation also? Right. Now that we are talking, we've talked about string concatenation. I will copy paste all of these things here because I know this is very important. I'm just going to clean this up a bit. Great. Right. Okay. Let's see. What do you mean manually, Priyanka? You're welcome, Arvi. What do you mean manually, Priyanka? Okay, you mean, okay, this hard work that we are having to do, right? Yes, and that is actually unfortunate. So in JavaScript, the date library does not have a lot of support, right? So it will give you all the components. You want to get the date, you want to get whatever, right? You can get that. But if you want to specify this in a very easy manner, that is not something that JavaScript date library gives you. And that is the reason, guys, why most people who are working on JavaScript with dates, they will never use date, but they will use a library which is called moment.js. Very popular one. Probably when we start learning React, I will teach you about it. In that, doing this is very simple. Extremely simple, actually. Did you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you guys want to see how cool moment is? I can give you a glimpse of it. बहुत जल्दी से. Not in your course, but do you want me to show it to you? Okay. Yeah, I don't have a moment installed here, but okay. It's going to take a lot of time. I don't have moment installed at the moment, but I'll tell you about it later. Right? Don't worry. It's called Moment.js, and how we use it is something I'll explain in once I have Moment installed. It's not in your course, so I don't want to take a lot of time on this. Okay, right? Okay, cool. So next thing. So we know how we can manipulate with dates, right? Guys, similarly, so we talked about the get methods, right? Where we were getting date, where we were getting days by saying get days, right? So just like there are get methods, there are set methods as well, right? So how this works is the get and set methods is they can change a particular element of the date for you. Okay, let me explain it. It's actually pretty cool, right? So look at this. So let's say you do t is equal to new date. Okay. So right now t is pointing to January the 3rd, 2020, right? But let's say Kishore comes up to me and asks, hey, I want to quickly reach to the date, to the same date, same everything on the year 2020, right? For example. Now we know that, hey, if we have to do that, we're going to have to take this whole thing and say new date, talk about just go like this, right? Sorry, 2020, 01, 03, then T, and all of this time. Very, very complicated, right? But what we can simply do is we can say T dot set year, and let's say I say 2000, and that's it. Right? So what it has returned me here is, it has returned me here. Sorry, I said set year. I should have said set full year, right? And this gives me this particular timestamp, right? Now, if you look at T, what is it, guys? If you look at T, what is the value of T? Sorry, I did 2000, but we were looking to do 2020 actually. So I'll do this. Now, if you look at T, what is the value of T? Look at the year, guys. Look at the year, guys. So very, very quickly, right? So what was T earlier? T was, we did new date. And we just wanted to see, hey, what was the, let's say, what was the date or what was everything if I just set it to 2022. Sorry, 2020, right? It returns you the timestamp and it changes your date to that, right? So everything is same. Time is still 2020 02, but of course it was a Friday that day, right? And the month is of course the same. Did you guys understand? Very powerful tool. Extremely powerful tool, right? No calculation, nothing to be done. Simply set it, done. Okay, these things are not really in your course, but it's just very important, so don't want to miss them, guys. What is the difference between set year and set full year? Just like when you do t dot get year, there are two things. When you do t dot get year, it's going to return 1 to 0, right? And when you do t dot get full year, it's going to return 2020, right? So just always do this. There is a whole convention to how this thing works. I don't want to get into that, but the year which you guys are accustomed to, which you guys are used to, is called the full year and not year. That's all you need to know. right? So just use that. Is everyone clear, guys? Full year is the actual year. Year is another convention. Don't really want to talk much about it because not in our course. Again, I mean, just like I said, don't want to talk much about it. Just use full year always. Okay, so that's how you, and of course, you can change anything, right? Right, you can change anything. So it's T, right? The year was this. You can also say, I want to change the date. You can do 15. What happens then? It tells you this everything same, just the date is 15 January, and that was a Wednesday. Of course, there's set month also. This is 3, and now T is April. You can change everything about a date, right? Everything, Ajit, कितनी बार बोलूं? Set hours होता है. Every single thing. And we'll do all of the computation for you, the days, the timestamps, everything. I'll be clear, guys. Okay. Now, I just want to spend some more time on this and completely close this. I have a question for everyone. Do you want to do a question on this? Again, related to algorithms. Okay. It goes like this. Okay. You need to give me a function. You need to write a function, okay, which says give the next day. Okay. To this, you're going to pass a date, right? The one that new date gives you, right? Okay, guys. And what you need to return is the next day, right? So let's say I pass to it. Let's say I pass to it new date. It's today, right? So I say const today is equal to complete date, right? So what is today? Today is the 3rd of Jan, right? Or today is 3rd of Jan. Today is, what is the day today? Today is Monday, right? So Monday has the code 1, right? So this guy should return me 2. Okay. Or let's just make it different. It should give the next date, right? So let's say today is 3. I mean, I can pass it the whole date and it should return me the next day. It should return me 4. And remember, it's not that simple. If it is written, if it says, let's say you pass it 30th of January, right? It should not give me 31, right? I mean, if you pass it 31st of January, it should not give me 32, right? It should give me 1st of Feb, right? So it's not as simple as doing t dot get day, adding 1 to it and returning. This is absolutely wrong, while it looks correct. Did you guys understand? T dot get date, my bad. Oh. No format, Sweta, just a number will be fine. Okay, or there's a format also. I want it like this. Whatever the date is, I want it YYY, which means year, DD. So this means it should look like 2022 02. I don't know, date is 01. Everything should be considered a myth. Wow. Shivam, are you sure? Just take 1 or 2 more minutes and then we'll do it. 2 minutes all, everyone, think about it. Shivam rocks, seriously. Okay, now think. you guys also become heroes, okay? Think everyone. Can you repeat the question again? Question is, you pass a date to it, right? What type of date? The date object. Let's say today. So you pass it like this. And it should return you the next date, right? So if you pass today to it, it should return you 2022-01, right? And 04. Will it be advisable to have 3 functions? I mean, do it as you like, Amit. Do you have an answer, Amit? You have an answer? Okay. It's very simple, actually. I know it looks complicated, but if you just remember the thing which I taught you last, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to teach you guys the application of it. Come on, someone. RB try karo. Just 1 more minute and then I'll tell the answer. Or then I'll ask Shivam to tell the answer. Okay, Sweta, do you want to try? Do you want to try, Sweta? Perfect. Ajo. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Sweta.
So, sir, first, we have to specify the current date, first of all. So,
It does not have to be the current date here. It could be any date, right?
yeah, so that we can do it like first to specify that where current date equals to new date.
Okay, already done.
Basically, like, sir, it will store the date exactly in the 24 hours format.
Not in the 24 hours format. Doing this basically gives you the date object. Whatever you want to do with it, you can, but it's not the 24-hour format, so to say.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then.
Yeah, so where current date equals to new date, and inside this date, we'll just specify this new date then dot
I'm
get.
just passing. Should I just do it
Yeah.
like this?
Yeah, get the next date. So you can type it like that, like I can dictate.
No, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
So these two lines is this fine?
Constant equals to new date, yes. And then the first line is fine, and give the next date equals to today. Okay.
I'm just calling the function with this thing.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay,
So,
now what to do?
So inside, sir, current date, basically like, sir, in the new date, we are passing, sir, two objects. Okay, so two parameters. Okay.
Where are you talking about this one?
Return dot t dot get it. So that will be, sir, we'll do at the end, like we'll basically like.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically like, sir, first we are just specifying this current date, and in the current date, what we are just passing is like new date. And in the new date, we are passing two parameters as a one new date and new date dot get time, where we are just formatting the time as like you can say plus 24 into 60 into 60 into 1000.
Okay, like, sorry, just let me understand. Are you saying you want to create a new function? Is that what you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is the name of that?
Where current date.
Sweta, what is the name of the function that you want to create?
A new date, sir.
No, see, if you're creating a function, it can't be called new date, right? New date is already written here, which is getting today's date.
Yeah, so that will give the today's date, and basically like, sir, we'll just add that one at the end, and it will show us the way which we have done for like this date constructor, which we have just learned till just
Okay.
2 minutes back.
You can't just say today plus 1, right? That doesn't work.
No, sir, that directly today plus 1, that won't work. Basically, sir, what we are doing, this current date dot set date, and then inside this set date, we are just passing current date dot get date, and then we are just adding that one. Then that will work, sir.
Okay, so please tell me what to write here. On 698, what should I write?
You have just specified this return to dot t dot get date, okay, and then
Just forget everything else.
sir, can you start with the thing like you have whatever you have specified is like return t dot get date plus 1.
Okay, this is what I told you is wrong, right?
That we have to basically like print it, right?
No, it should return this, right? So basically, this guy is going to return some date, right? Which is going to be 20, which is going to be today, right? I want this function to return this string. It should look like this. That's the question.
So that will, so you will just mention this new date dot get date, and then plus into 24 into 60 into 60, and then at the end 1000. That will return.
Okay, so what are you saying? Let me
Because
just
you have specified this day month here already. It has defined, right?
No, it's not defined. कुछ लिखा ही नहीं है ना यहाँ पे तो.
हाँ तो सर आप start करो ना एक बार like where current date equal.
Okay.
Where current date.
No, we won't be using where.
Okay, just let current date equals new date.
Again, you want to you have a new date already. Why do you want to write new date again?
Okay, inside this new date, just sir pass it new date.
Inside this?
Yes, sir.
What should I pass?
New date dot get time.
But how does that make sense, Sweta? This is, we've read about the new date constructor just now. There are only 4 types of things that it can take.
Get time. So basically, like, sir, we are just storing this current date values inside this.
Yes.
Inside this current date, we are just storing this today's date. Basically, like we can say like that, right?
Okay.
So for that, what we exactly will do it. We are just making the format of current date.
Okay.
For that, what we will do is like we'll just pass it as a new date, and new date is something like new date dot get time.
So today dot get time, is that what you mean?
Dot get time, yes, and
so is that the current date? Do you want to store it into current date?
No, plus 24 into 60.
Plus 24 star.
Into 60 into twice 60, sir. Twice 60.
Okay, so like this.
Into 1000.
Okay. So what does this do? Get time, what will it do?
Sir, it will return this the current date, that let's say today's date, the format.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir. So the day and the month and the year already specified. No, we'll do that.
No.
Current date, today's dot get it.
So if you do t is equal to new date, let's say, t dot get, you said time, is going to give you this thing, right? Which is basically the epoch value, right? To
Yes.
this, what we are doing is we are adding 1 day. How we are doing it? We are saying 24 start 3600 or 3 more zeros after this.
Yeah.
So this is basically the epoch for tomorrow, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then what do we do with this? So shall we call it the day tomorrow, epoch for tomorrow? And can we call it this, guys? Sweta, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're going right, Sweta. Think about it.
Yes,
This
sir.
is tomorrow. Now, isse date kaise leke aaye? How do we get the date out of this? I mean, the date object out of this?
This constant today. Okay, so you can do it like today dot get date.
But okay, okay. What do you want to achieve with that?
So we are basically like, sir, in the day we are mentioning current date, that is the today dot get date, and in the month we are mentioning this current this today dot get month, and again for the year same. So basically, like what we got, this day, month, and year, we got it. This current day, current month, and the current year, we just got it. We stored.
But those can change, right? So if it's 31st of December, right, which was the day given here, then your logic does not work. Okay, don't worry. Let me explain it. It was very simple, and actually we're on the very right track. See, guys, again, let me help you out. See, look at this. When we say const today is equal to new date, what does it give us? I made a bad spelling, but that's okay, right? It gives us the day, which the date and the day, which is today.
Yes.
Right? Does everyone understand this? Okay, perfectly cool. Now, very simply, to get the next day, right? What is the best way? You can say to that. I mean, sorry for the bad spelling. Dot get. No, sorry. When you say get, right? And when you say get milliseconds, what does it give you? It gives you the millisecond value, but that's not what you need. You need the time, which you had correctly mentioned, Sweta. So I say get time, and gives me the epoch seconds of that, of today's, right? Of the time, right? So if to this epoch seconds, I'm able to add 24 star 36 star 1 in 5 zeros, 1 2 1 2 3 5. I think I get it right, or did I not? Okay, 1 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so this is definitely the epoch for next day. Does everyone understand that?
Yes, sir.
Guys, does everyone understand that? Okay, so what I'm going to say is I'll just save it to a new variable and say let tomorrow's epoch is equal to this, right? And then it's very simple, right? All you have to do is new date, that epoch, done. And JavaScript is going to take care of everything. So even if it was, let's say, a complicated date, right? So let's say we had, I don't know, 31st, 2021, 12, 31, right? So it's 31st of December, right? I pass it into T, then I say T is, and then I take a new variable. So I say tomorrow. So T dot get, what did we do here again? Get time is the epoch milliseconds for that date, correct? Plus I'll just copy this guy, will be the epoch milliseconds for the next date, which is actually the 1st of Jan, right? It's stored in tomorrow. And when I say new date of tomorrow, it's correct.
So, sir, basically, like you are converting this current date to epoch value, and then
yes, that's the safest way of doing it, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the safest way of doing it, because anything else that you try it out may go wrong, right? Now, can you tell about the second part, Sweta? How do I convert it into this? Ye to batao theek se?
Yes, sir. So for that, like again, sir, first we have to mention this about the day, month, and the year. Then only we can just.
Okay, tell me how.
So yeah. So for again, sir, we'll just for this. Let's say let day equals to.
Okay. Bolo, let day is equal to.
Let day equals to current date dot get day. So, but we have tomorrow date for.
I'm gonna make your life a bit easy. New date, and I'll just start with epoch tomorrow. And this is the date. Okay. बस सब हो गया श्वेता, अब जल्दी से इसको कन्वर्ट करो इसमें, बताओ कैसे करेंगे?
So for that, sir, we'll just.
सबसे सिंपल है श्वेता ये. सोचो. You just need components.
Everything. We'll just concate everything.
Yes, बताओ क्या क्या concatenate करना है?
Sir, first like day plus. Okay, you want in the format year.
पहले get the values, right? First get the values. So you need the year, right?
Yeah. So for that, like year.
Do date for tomorrow.
Date for tomorrow.
Or get full year.
Get full year. Then again for let month.
Is equal to.
Let month equals to get date for tomorrow dot get full month. Get month. Sorry.
Full month nahi hota, it's month.
Yeah, get month. Yeah. And
you have to add +1 to it, right? Because it's 0 indexed.
0 index, yes, sir.
Correct. And finally, let
day equals to date for tomorrow dot get full get date. Sorry, get date.
Correct.
And
then finally, you say return. Just concatenate everything. Year
plus in space
dash
plus month dash
plus
year plus day.
Okay, that's it. Done. Simple enough, guys.
Yes, sir. So I just got a bit confused in during that only.
Don't worry. Guys, is this clear? Simple, right? What we've done is we know, hey, the way to get epoch timestamp from a date is this. We add some time to it. We add 1 day to it. We computed this and then done. Very, very simple. And now you have a function to which you can pass any date and it will give you the next date. Finished. Done. Right? So guys, this officially closes date for us. We've done a little more than what was required. Of course we can, right, Ajay? It does this, it's the same thing. So you can have give the previous date, something like that, and just -1 and everything else will remain same. Cool. Okay, guys, we'll stop here today, and then we'll be talking about constructor functions tomorrow. We'll complete constructor functions tomorrow. Another very interesting concept, but I hope date and math is something that we are very clear on now. Is everyone very clear on date and math now? Perfect. That was the intention, guys. Date is extremely important. And this kind of questions, they are asked in interviews, right? So keep this handy and not very complicated, yaar. Just understand the concept, right? Once you have a date, you can just play around with it. Epoch add karo, date, time set karo. You can do anything with it.